I'm very excited to deal with this big doubt this week, which is it too late for me? Now, the problem with doubts is that they lurk in the dark recesses of your mind, a little bit like wild animals in the jungle, and you get a sense that they're there, but they're not always obvious. And the reason is that so many doubts are based on stories, actually not even nice stories, horror stories that maybe we heard when we were little children or growing up about what we couldn't do or what we shouldn't do. And sadly, those stories get absorbed into our mind, and it's like a background hum that you always think, oh, should I be doing this? Could I do this? Is it too late for me? Now, I want to address the too late issue very specifically today because a lot of people are reaching out and thinking it's not a great time to start something new. They feel too exhausted, and have they just left it too late? So the too late issue I can put to bed very easily with a really beautiful story I heard a little while ago, which was a speaker got approached after a seminar, and it was a technical seminar based on a particular aspect of a profession. And someone approached them and said, look, I really, it's been my lifelong dream to be, let's say, a chiropractor. It's been my lifelong dream to be a chiropractor, but I'm 40, and if I leave it, it'll take me 10 years of part-time study because of family commitments and everything else, and I'll be 50 by the time I graduate, and I just don't know, have I left it too late? Is it too late for me? And this very clever, lovely speaker in this field said, well, okay, so you're 40 now. And I said, yes. And they said, and you'll be 50 when you've finished, you've worked out you'll be finished when you 50 when you finish studying. And the audience member said, yes. And I said, okay, well, you're going to be 50 anyway. So how about you're 50 with the qualification rather than spending 10 years thinking it's too late and then being 50 without the qualification? It's such a refreshing way of looking at it, and it really starts to nip that particular doubt in the bud. It's never a great time to start something, and it's never a bad time to start something. You just start something. I remember once, before I had a family, I was agonizing over juggling career and family, and I thought, well, it's never going to be a bad time, and it's never going to be a great time. I'll just do it. And I just started, which is how I do many things in my personal and professional life. But I want to get back to doubt, because doubts can really eat away at your self-confidence and create a very negative story pattern unless you dive deep and focus on bringing them out into the open, getting them out of the shadows, out of the jungle, and into the light of day, and then they lose their magic. And doubts form the basis of what I call the one big thing. Because when I'm coaching entrepreneurs and people who just want to start new or reinvent their habits or reinvent themselves as the person they dreamed of being while still being themselves intrinsically, they often have a one big thing. And I had a client a little while ago, and her one big thing was that she believed that no one wanted to hear what she had to say. Now, this was a very successful, lovely woman, mother, business owner, senior professional, but she had this doubt in her mind, and it was so insidious because every time she opened her mouth to say something, this doubt was lurking in the shadows. So that was her one big thing. So we worked on it very intensely, and we traced it back to a particular incident when she was at school, and I think she was 9 or 10 at the time, and she raised her hand to ask a question, and the class laughed. And from that point onwards, that doubt was there. It entered her story that perhaps I shouldn't speak because I'll be laughed at, or no one will hear what I want to say. So we got that doubt out of the darkness and dragged it out into the open. And I said, okay, well, there's another way using feeling backwards, which I know I've shared with you recently in another episode, but using feeling backwards, let's go back to that particular day and let's look at it, and let's just tweak it a little bit as to what might have happened. And I reshared with her the story of the Emperor's New Clothes. Now, if it's a fairy tale that you're not familiar with, in a very shortened version, there was once upon a time a very vain and foolish emperor who prided himself on his majestic and very luxurious, glamorous appearance. And a couple of swindlers came to his kingdom, and they pretended they had this new, most glittering, amazing cloth. And what they showed the emperor was actually invisible. There was no cloth there at all. But being vain and foolish, he didn't want to admit that when they were saying, look at this cloth, isn't it magnificent? He didn't want to admit that he couldn't see anything at all. So he went along with the charade, and they made him his set of new clothes. And they told him they looked amazing, and when he put it on, which they pretended to put these invisible clothes on him, they said he was the most magnificent emperor in the world. And the emperor was so excited because he still didn't want to face reality or the fact he could be foolish and not see what everyone else could. He arranged a parade and he walked down the street in his new clothes. And all the townspeople also didn't want to admit that they couldn't see any clothes at all, until a small child pointed his or her chubby finger and said, oh look, the emperor isn't wearing anything at all. And then everyone laughed. And I said to my client, I said, you can't actually remember the details of that day. You can't remember the exact question you asked or the context because you were little, and it was just the embarrassment and confusion when everyone laughed at you would have driven away the memory of what you actually said. I said, is it possible that you did ask the question that everyone else had been thinking of but hadn't been brave enough to ask? And is it possible that the whole class didn't fall about laughing off their chairs uproariously, but there was just a bit of a titter? And is it possible probably only one or two people sniggered, but because that doubt has been lurking in your mind for so long, it's gotten bigger and bigger and bigger because we never dragged it out into the open and we never thought of changing your story. So I said, is it possible that you are actually, when you speak with courage, and that you say things that other people might have been thinking of but been too scared to say? So let's change that story. Let's make it that you're the person that speaks with courage, that says their thoughts, and people will want to listen. Now, I kid you not, this beautiful client now has her own part-time radio show, and she doesn't have that doubt anymore. Sometimes it surfaces because we all have times where we're not particularly feeling on top of our game, but she dragged the doubt out into the open and that she dealt with it. And she still sometimes has to, when she's preparing a speech or preparing an interview, she does preparation very thoroughly because she still feels as though public speaking doesn't come naturally. But she took herself off to a Toastmasters course on my recommendation to become more practiced and more polished. And yes, it was a very, very happy day for me when I was interviewed on her radio show. So I just wanted to share that with you. I wanted to also put it in the context that I've been offering some new programs recently. I have my habit reinvention course. I also have Designing Your Future with the Fabulous Future Formula, but I also have a offering which is a one-on-one intensive coaching program, and we can do a very short time together focusing on your one big thing, or we can do a slightly longer coaching course which is more based on projects. So I wanted to share that with you. If you dive into the links, you can see there's a place where you can contact me if you are interested in working with me together, and I would love to hear from you. And if you're not sure that you do have a one big thing or you'd like some help uncovering that, that's not a problem too. So I'm so delighted I've been able to share this time with you. Please email me if you have any questions, and we will catch up, I am sure, soon. I'll see you next week.